Good morning. My name is Thomas Reutman. I'm the hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cerise Waiters is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there's no sign-in sheet. So if you'd like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. If you do not have that with you, please contact the Bureau of Urban Forestry at urbanforestry@sfdpw.org. This public hearing is being held to consider 4 items. First, public comment. Members of the public may address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Then hearing order 210457 to consider an appeal for the illegal pruning of one street tree adjacent to 400 Cortlandt Avenue. Hearing order 210458 to consider an appeal for the illegal removal of one street tree adjacent to 1069 Pennsylvania Avenue. And hearing order 210459 to consider an appeal for the illegal removal of one significant tree on private property at 201 Vicente Street. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for all of the cases. I'll ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I'll allow the property owner, applicant, or appellant to speak. Then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. Then the department, if the department would like to address any comments. And then if I feel it's warranted, I will allow an opportunity for further clarification by the appellant. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You'll then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you are a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments, then use Zoom's raise your hand feature to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you've dialed in by phone, raise your hand by pressing *9, and when told you are being unmuted, press *6 to unmute yourself before speaking. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. Again, if you'd like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You'll then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. And before we start with the first order, I just wanted to confirm with the clerk that the presentation materials, that you're able to show those on the Zoom screen.
Yes, Brian Ong will be able to share his screen. But before we go into the items, there is one item number 2, I believe it is, on the agenda, where you ask if there are any comments that are for things that are not related to today's hearing. Can
Yes.
you please read that? I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, so we'll start with that comment. Are there any matters in Public Works purview that are not on the May 15th, 2024 agenda? Anyone attending this hearing?
Okay, I see no hands raised.
Okay, with that, we'll move to the first order, 210457. And I'll ask Public Works to make the presentation.
Good morning. My name is Brian. I am the Public Works representative, Bureau of Urban Forestry. This is for the administrative hearing for May 15th, 2024. Before we go into the cases, I'm just going to address a few slides. Hold on one second. Okay, so a tree ordinance establishes authorization and standards for addressing a wide range of issues regarding trees. San Francisco's urban forestry ordinance is codified under Article 16 of the Public Works Code. So Public Works Code Article 16 is the urban forestry ordinance. It's the protection of trees and landscape material. So injury to or destruction of trees are prohibited. It's unlawful for any person to intentionally, maliciously, or through gross negligence injure or destroy a street tree, any tree on city property, a significant tree, or a landmark tree. In addition to the penalties set forth, any person who removes or destroys a tree in violation of the provisions is to pay for each tree removed or destroyed a sum of $10,000 or the tree's replacement value, whichever is greater. And the director may require any person who injures a tree in violation of the provisions of Article 16 to pay a sum of money equal to the diminishment of the tree's value as set forth in the current edition of the Guide for Plant Appraisal. So basically, this is just require property owner plant a replacement tree or trees with the total diameter 6 inches above ground that is equal to or greater than the total diameter of the street tree or trees that were removed without a permit. Article 16, Section 806 is the removal. If the department grants a tree removal permit, it shall require that a street tree or trees of equivalent replacement value to the one removed be planted in the place of the removed tree or impose an in lieu fee. This is just protection of trees, tree protection during construction work. If excavation, construction, or street work is planned within the drip line of a significant tree, a landmark tree, or a tree on any street or other publicly owned property, it should be protected. And then these are just a few definitions of our Article 16, Section 802. Injury or injury, basically any act that harms or damages a tree, not including to impact cutting, carving, painting, transplanting, or knocking over. It includes, but is not limited to the following: injurious attachments of any rope, wire, nail, advertising poster, and pruning in which of itself will kill or cause a tree to decline, or severing all part of a tree. This is Article 16, Section 811C1 and 811C3, administrative penalties. As I said before, any person who removes or destroys a tree in violation of the provisions of Article 16 for each tree will pay the sum of $10,000 or the tree's replacement value. And then when one or more additional violations of the provision of the article occur within 1 year of the first violation, the director may assess a responsible party $20,000 for each removed or destroyed tree and double the diminishment of the injured tree's value. And so in summary, trees are more than just beautiful additions to urban life. They are an essential component of the city's ecosystem and provide enormous environmental and social benefits. A permit is required to remove any street tree, significant tree, or landmark tree. It is illegal to injure a tree. Injuries can include excessive pruning and malicious acts like nailing objects to trees and negligent acts like vehicular accidents. An illegal removal of a tree requires replacement with the equivalent inches in total diameter of the street tree or trees that were removed. It is the property owner's responsibility to know the law. Ignorance is not an excuse. So there's a few more slides before we start. This is like best management practices. Do not remove more than 25% of the tree's canopy each year. Removing 25% of the foliage on a branch or limb each year may stress the tree, and it will produce weakly attached branches the following year. It can kill or lead to decline. Do not cut back to a branch that is less than a third or half the size of the main branch, severing all or parts of the tree and topping. Sometimes it is necessary to do this, but best practice not to do that. If you plan on doing this, please contact us before you start this work. Some illegal practices: do not top trees. Topping trees, city trees, is illegal. Anyone who tops trees is liable and will be fined. It's also called hat racking, heading, or rounding over. Practice of cutting a terminal branch to a stump or to a lateral branch that is not large enough to assume the terminal role. In general, topping is not an acceptable way to reduce a tree's canopy. In certain situations, a professional arborist may use topping to remove hazardous branches and prolong the life of a mature tree. Oh. And so topping, this is not a success story. You can see the weakly attached branches kind of growing here. The tree is trying to provide branches so the tree can do photosynthesis to start growing again.
Ryan, sorry, can I interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
Your screen is kind of showing maybe half or a third of the
Oh, I see.
actual
Okay.
screen.
Okay.
I don't know if you can change the zoom on that.
Let me stop and then I'll start. Does that work or no? Is it still?
It's still displaying only the upper left
Okay.
portion of your
Let me see.
presentation.
Oh, I
Are you
see.
using the PowerPoint or the PDF version?
I am using the PDF version, but let me see. This should. Does that help? Can you see it now? Or is it still half
Now
the
I'm seeing the
screen?
other half of the page.
No, right.
Still like that? Sorry. Why is it? No.
I was having some technical issues also, but I'm going to see if I can get mine up, and if so, I can scroll while you speak. Thank you all for your patience. Just bear with us just a moment.
it's still like that. I'm trying to. Therese, are you able to share it on your screen?
Yes, I'm logging in right now. I'm trying to get mine up. Let's see. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, give me just a second. How do I wanna? Hold on, let me make. Okay. Okay, good. Is that better? That's the best I can do for the moment.
I just showing your email.
Okay. Are you able to? So you can see
Oh.
all of that now? Where's my cursor? Is that where we were?
We're
Still on your
seeing
email.
your email and not your
can't-
presentation.
Oh my gosh, okay. I'm not certain what happened.
Yeah, yeah,
Now-
that works.
Okay, thank you all for your patience. I apologize for all these errors.
Is
Okay, continue, Mr. Ong.
is there a yeah. So basically this is topping weekly attached rapid new growth as the tree tries to recover energy producing leaves as quickly as possible. Can you go to the next page?
For some reason now I can't scroll down. Um, it's frozen now. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening. Um, Maybe you can continue with
You want me
your.
to try, Cerise, would you like me to try to share it on my screen?
Sure, sure.
Let's
Yes,
try that before we,
because I'm working remotely today too, and I don't know if it's an issue with that or not.
seems to have the same issue with the size of it.
So maybe we can continue with the presentation the way we have it, and Mr. Ong will just scroll past the pages, and if anyone needs or wants a copy of it, we can email a copy of the PDF later if they request it. And you already have a copy, so maybe let's continue with the way he was already going.
Okay. Let me see. I'll share it then.
I tried sharing it. Is that working for anyone?
Oh yeah, that works. or I could see it, the whole thing.
So
Yeah,
it's not ideal because it's probably showing a lot of border, but if
it's
it's
okay.
good enough, then I can scroll for you. I think this is the slide you were on.
Yeah, you could scroll down to the next one. Okay, yeah, so this is another example of weakly attached rapid new growth. All the tree's resources were used up trying to recover the leaf canopy. And so ultimately the tree died. Next slide, please. Also toppling creates weakly attached rapid new growth when they grow large, highly prone to limb failure. This is kind of what happens when the tree was topped and then everything gets kind of entangled. Next slide, please. So improper pruning results in entry points for pathogens or can cause entry points. And this is just improper cuts and basically disease or pathogen gets in and starts to decay the tree. Next slide, please. So topping is not the same as pollarding. Pollarding must be started when the trees are young and can only be performed on certain species of trees. You'll see this a lot in front of City Hall. Those are sycamore trees and they've been pruned properly since at a young age. So basically the branches are all taken back to this, the knuckle, what kind of looks like a knuckle, and it's repeated every year as new growth presents itself. So what you see on the left is kind of what you see in front of City Hall, all those trees, no leaves, and then on the right is an example of topping where they didn't properly do it, and probably on a different species. Next slide, please. So this is PG&E high voltage power line conflicts are the responsibility of PG&E's line clearance certified arborists. So they will come out and they won't do any aesthetic pruning, but they'll clear for lines. Pretty much the very topmost line above the transformer is the high voltage line, and anything below that is low voltage and secondary lines. And basically the lines below the transformer, the big cylindrical object that you see on the power lines, everything below that is insulated. So it is designed to come into contact with vegetation. So it's okay if the tree is growing as long as there's no abrasion, or you see sometimes there's wear and tear and slight burns on the tree. If that happens, then you can call PG&E and they'll be able to relieve that stress on the tree and the line. So CPUC General Order 95, Rule 88 requires that utilities maintain a minimum of 18 inches clearance between vegetation and the high voltage conductors at all times. Next slide, please. So street tree SF, you can go to the next slide, please. So tree maintenance. So in 2017, the city took back responsibility of maintenance of all trees and sidewalks surrounding trees. So we are pruning on a schedule. So basically $19 million annually set aside in the city's general funds for street tree SF. The census completed in 2016 used to create priorities and a routine proactive tree pruning schedule for the city's 125,000 plus trees. And so this is kind of, we basically completed more than half the city, and all the green is what we have left over, and the yellowish color is basically what we're active right now. Next slide, please. So it's a work in progress. Since the start of Street Tree SF, I think this number is a little skewed. It's probably closer to like 75% of the total street maintenance needs have been addressed by contractors and city arborists. And more than 85,000 trees have been pruned. This is of December 2023. Next slide. So information outreach. If you have any questions or concerns, you can go to our website. And yeah, next slide, please. So to start, this is order number 210457 for 400 Cortland. Turn my video. To consider an appeal for the legal removal of one street tree adjacent to 400 Cortland. The fine issued is $2,431. Next slide. So this is a ficus tree, and basically you could see 100% of the canopy has been removed from the ficus tree. Buff witnessed the top tree during a routine inspection throughout District 9. Next slide. And then this is what the tree looked like beforehand. So this is a picture provided by Google Street View. 100% of the live crown was removed. A significant number of scaffold limbs have been retained. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have fined the owner the in lieu fee for illegal pruning.
Thank you for that presentation. Before we hear from the appellant, I just have a question for the Bureau. Is that condition of the tree that you showed here in this slide, is that tree gone, or is that one that has the ability to regrow in your estimation?
It'll never grow back to its full potential as it was before. And it's gonna be creating weakly attachments to the tree. So it's prone to failure. It's a ficus tree, and you can kind of see, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's already like some wounds from cars. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna grow and produce vegetation, but there's just more of a higher chance of a branch breaking or a pathogen or something like that entering.
Okay. Thank you. Is the appellant for the property at 400 Cortland present?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm
Can you
here.
state your name too, please?
Yes, sir. This is Nina Batarsi. I'm a native of San Francisco, born and raised. Love the city, you know, and always here to help and do the best for, you know, safety. The tree and the branches, sir, there was more than one limb that actually broke off. This street is a two-way street, and when both sides, when the cars are parked on the side, it's very tight. You literally have to wait for one car to go in and one car to go out. And this tree randomly gets hit. There was a few branches that busted out and hit the cars. I'll be honest, we're blessed that no one complained. We've been taking care of the property since the 90s. We've never had any issues. We always make phone calls to the city and ask questions, because there are a lot of questions that we have. We ask, the greatest service that the city has is that 311. God bless the angels. You can ask them just about anything and they will direct you. So I am seeing the photos you're seeing now. Every single one of the limbs right now, there's green growth there. Just want you to know that. Our intention was not to go and kill the tree. We love the tree. There's a lot of branches that also fall on the roof. The owners of the business call us all the time and let us know, hey, look, the roots get clogged. They have probably every year or so, they have to bring in a company to clear the drains. And we love the tree. So, you know, we apologize. I'm gonna be honest with you. This was never to hurt the tree. So like I said, we've been the owners there since the 90s, sir. And again, being a native of the city, I'm not gonna lie to you, every day that I'm driving in our city, if I see something that is wrong, I'm the first one to make reports. I say my name, but I never give them a phone number or something to go back, because I'm just telling them I'm here to help. And I keep an eye on every phone call that I do and track down the numbers. And honest to God, the city is usually pretty good and stay on top of taking care of the cases. I hope you can hear me, sir. I could see the picture in front of me and the building, and I'm just wondering if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear everything you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's the first time I'm doing this. I'm not going to lie to you. I am not computer savvy, and I have my daughter who's right next to me. You want to say your name, honey?
This is Claudine Batarsi.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your testimony. So sorry, just to follow up, you mentioned that you had reached out to the city about numerous other issues. Did you make any contact with the city regarding pruning the tree? Now, hopefully understanding that it's the city's responsibility to maintain the tree.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And let me tell you, and I'll be honest with you, after 2019, it got extremely difficult even getting through. It's now, I feel like now being, born and raised there and seeing it, I feel like now the city's catching up, to be honest. And I know it hasn't been easy. I mean, now we're aware that if we need to go on Zoom or be home, everyone's pretty much got this down. This is amazing. So I always make phone calls first, sir.
So you called the city to ask them to trim the tree, given that it's in their purview. Do you have
Yes.
any
Yes.
correspondence like that?
No, honey. Apologies. No, I don't.
Okay.
And just to chime in, she mainly doesn't have correspondence because when she does call 311, she kind of makes them like as anonymous calls.
Yes.
And it's more like she's like following up. So she never really, makes the claim or gets an email verification or a text or through the app or anything like that. It's just all verbal over the phone.
Yes, sir.
Understood. I'm not trying to force like proof of contact or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is understand if before the violation of over pruning on this tree was done, if there had been any outreach or communication with the Bureau of Urban Forestry to try to initiate the city doing their responsibility before taking it upon yourself to do it yourself.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have called more than once.
Okay.
And then for safety, I'm going to be honest with you. You really can't wait when it's for safety. You got to take care of it. I mean, I apologize, that I didn't get down people's phone numbers. I try to do the best I can, sir.
So if you called the city, did you get any kind of pledge or response about when the city would take care of this tree issue?
Yeah, no, sir, I did not.
Okay.
And then there's lots
We
of
can look into what requests were made on our side and see if there was a delay or a lack of response from the city side. And sorry, my last question to you, Nina, is when you had this tree pruned, did you have an arborist or did your trimmer or gardener understand the pruning responsibilities that the urban forester presented earlier in the presentation?
Yes, sir. And we've used him before and we've never had a problem. So I apologize, I tried to reach out to him and he's, to be honest, we can't even get a hold of him right now. He had told me the last time that he was going to leave and take care of a family member that wasn't doing well. And so, we have to look for another person right now.
So he's trimmed this in the past, but not
Yes, sir. Hon.
okay.
Yes, sir. It's always been him. He's a gentleman, truly a gentleman.
But to help assuage you for future pruning, I would recommend that you contact the city because the city has the arborist that can actually take care of this tree. And if
Absolutely.
you explain the safety issues, they will prioritize trimming your tree for you.
And trust me, sir, I really did call. And I promise you this time that I will have my daughter email and get more involved. I am not computer savvy. There's no excuse for that. I have my daughter help me as much as she could. I mean, we're natives. We love the city. We hope we can still stay in the San Francisco. It's been extremely hard after 2019 with vandalism, break-ins, taggings. It's been a hot mess. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, based on our presentation, you're not alone in having computer savvy issues, so don't worry about that.
I love you. Thank you so much. God bless you. And God bless our future children, really.
Understood. Okay, we'll we'll take this testimony and look into it from our side about the inquiries, and
Thank you.
we'll get
Thank
back to
you so
you.
much, sir. God bless you all for your time. I know this is not easy.
Yeah, well, thank you for your understanding of how the process works here, and I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, sir. Really, God bless you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from on this call that's here to speak specifically to this item?
There are no other hands at this time.
Okay, then we'll consider this item closed and move to, let's see, order number 210458 at Pennsylvania Avenue.
Order number 210458, 1069 Pennsylvania Ave, to consider an appeal for the legal removal of one street tree adjacent to 1069 Pennsylvania Ave. The fine issued is $10,000. Next slide, please. So this is basically the site where the tree was removed. It was evergreen pear. It's a street tree located across the street from the property. In this, the street tree located is the address at 1098 Pennsylvania Ave, site number 10. This image is from 2023, January, and recorded DBH was 5 inches in diameter. Next slide, please. And so this is kind of the red delineation shows the area of excavation and vault location of the illegal tree removal. You can kind of see in the roadway that there was some trenching done that leads all the way up to the tree where the tree used to be. And so the property doing construction work was 1069 Pennsylvania, excavation permit 23E00939, and a UCD transformer vault per permit 22B00032, and associated electrical conduits. The tree was removed at 1098 Pennsylvania, site 10. The tree was across the street from the subject property. Next slide, please. And so Thursday, there's kind of like a timeline of events. Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, Buff was in contact with construction contractor about tree conflict inquiry and next steps. The contractor explained on Thursday, February 22nd, that there were underground utilities that obstructed their original location for the number 5 box. We had to relocate the box to the other side of the sidewalk in order for our box and the conduits to meet the PG&E clearance requirement. The sidewalk is full of underground utilities that were not known until we had our excavation permit in hand that allowed us to pothole and perform our excavation activities. And then Thursday that morning at 10 a.m., the 22nd, the contractor was advised to halt work and make site safe and submit a tree removal permit application. Buff stated that we would not be able to grant an emergency removal permit. And then Friday at 8:34 a.m., the department confirmed in writing that the tree is protected as a street tree. And then Friday that afternoon, the tree was found to be removed without a permit. Next slide, please. This is kind of the location of the tree, where 1069 Pennsylvania is, and then where the vault location is proposed or was installed, and then there's the tree on the right-hand side of where they removed. Next slide, please. And then this is the schematic or the site plan of where the PG&E vault was and where all the conduits go. And so the construction work was permitted with an excavation permit in very fine small print on the excavation permit. Holders are advised that they must obtain a tree removal permit from Buff. Basically, contractors are responsible for knowing the regulations and permit requirements for the municipalities they work in. As you can see, it's kind of small, but this is, the excavation permit number 10. The permittee shall obtain a tree permit from urban forestry before planting removing any trees or shrubs, contact, and it even has our number on there to give us a call. Next slide, please. So here's just another photo on Friday in the afternoon when the location, when the tree, or where the tree was and it was removed. Next slide, please. And then this is the location of the tree and the construction work that was happening. Next slide, sorry. So this is notes from the inspector. The project contacts have apologized and have been responsive. A retroactive removal application was submitted immediately. Project submitted a letter for appeal. The project has been in touch regularly to resolve the fine and fulfill mitigation requirements. The tree cannot be replaced across the street easily because of the utilities and soil conditions at the subject property. The property wishes to pay the in lieu fees for the required cost of replacing 5 inches of the trunk diameter removed. An amount equal to 2 in lieu fees will go to the Adopt a Tree Fund. So the total violation fee summary, the retroactive permit is $923. The fine is $10,000, may be reduced subject to appeal decision. And the in lieu fee for the replacement cost is $4,862. So the total is $15,785, which may be reduced after this hearing, up to the director and her decision. So here, to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have fined the property owner $10,000.
Thank you. Before we hear the testimony, I just wanted to understand if had the property owner not done what they did and asked for a removal permit under the normal channels, does Buff feel like this is a consideration where tree removal would have been granted?
It would most likely, if they could have provided, there was no other way to install the transformer and the conduit without harming the tree, then most likely the tree would be approved if they went through the proper channels and the process. I personally have not seen the tree, so I can't say fully. If it was a nice tree, then most of the time we would like deny it, and then they would still have to go through the proper channels. But yeah, I have not seen the tree in person, so I can't say for sure. But normally, if they can't provide, if they have to do construction work, and this is the last resort, and they can't do anything else, then most likely we do approve it.
Okay, appreciate that. Is the appellant present? Okay, looks like there's a hand up. Please state your name when you give your testimony.
Hi, this is June Chu. I'm part of Dumb Construction, the contractor, and I was on.
I'm sorry, is it possible to speak up a little bit louder? I can't quite hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is June Chu. I work for Dumb Construction, which is the contractor on this project. In the same hearing should also be Andy Giesner, who's also from Dumb Construction, and then Fred Wilson with Givaudan, who is the tenant at 1069 Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if it's okay to unmute them as well so that they can chime in, but I'll go into, I sent over a narrative to Sarah to send to you guys, so I'll go ahead and just read that. But Givaudan and Dumb Construction are two respected corporations committed to following the appropriate rules, regulations, and ordinances necessary to deliver a project that is a success for our operations, the environment, and the communities in which we operate. As you said on this project, we needed to we needed to upgrade the electrical service to the building as Givaudan is installing a research process. And that upgrade required placing an electrical vault across the street from the project site as shown. And due to the existing underground utilities that weren't located on the original PG&E design drawings, we had to adjust the box location to meet the clearance requirements. And during this process, we found out that there were conflicts with the existing tree. And during the excavation process, we did what we could to maintain the tree in its location, but the tree began to lean, which led to a field decision to remove it due to safety reasons. And our post-incident review revealed that there were efforts to preserve the tree safely, but it became increasingly complex due to high levels of naturally occurring asbestos in the soil in that area due to a soils report that we did. And due to the asbestos content, it wasn't an option to leave a soil adjacent to the tree for an extended period of time in the public sidewalk. So given these circumstances, our review concluded that it was a safety concern for the public and our employees that required the removal of the tree prior to the opportunity to complete the tree removal permit process. And had we been aware of the impact on the tree during the permitting planning stage, we would have followed the appropriate process for the permissions and permits, just like we did on the rest of the project. So we are committed to working with you to replace the tree, but respectfully request the fine to be waived in light of the prioritization of public and employee safety that led to the removal of the tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you say again what the purpose of the need for the excavation and the new upgrade was for?
Yeah, so we are working in 1069 to install a research process, and it required, when we talked to PG&E, they required us to upgrade the electrical service to the building, which required putting an electrical vault across the street. And the original location did not conflict with the tree.
Okay. So the service upgrade was needed for the function of the property,
Yes, correct.
and PG&E gave you a permit and a vault location. But then due to conflicting utilities, you had to relocate it to the location where the tree roots of the subject tree were conflicting.
Right.
Okay, and if I understand the timeline that Brian presented, it sounds like even knowing that the tree should not be removed, the contractor proceeded anyway because of concern for leaving the excavation open.
Yeah, so we were already in process of doing it because we did clear the vault clearance from the tree. But as we continued, we found out that the conduits had a wider clearance than the actual vault itself. And so it was already too late by then
Okay.
to preserve the tree now. So we thought that we were originally in the clear when we started putting the vault in.
Okay, so you were putting the vault in and then you had to make an adjustment and then ask for the emergency removal. It was denied, and then you proceeded to take the tree out because you didn't feel you had any other option. Is that?
Well, as we continued, we realized that the tree was starting to lean and we were worried it was going to be a safety hazard.
Okay, so the tree was leaning in because the excavation of the roots.
Was already in process, yes, because we thought we had the clearance necessary, but we found out that the conduits had a different clearance than the vault itself. The conduits to the vault had a different clearance than the vault itself, yes.
Just to understand the kind of the sequencing of this based on what Brian presented, it sounds like so you reached out at the point when the excavation was physically affecting the roots and causing the tree to lean,
Mhm,
that's when you reached out asking for an emergency removal permit.
mhm.
Um, Brian, do you know if, from the inspector's notes, if when they came out to look at the tree, it was already demonstrating damage or leaning based on the adjacent excavation, or was that not reflected in there?
Yeah, to my understanding that it was already in process when the inspector went out. Like
Yeah.
we weren't made like aware before the project, before, you know, that there's gonna be excavation near the tree and maybe we need to come out there and take a look. It was just, as it happened, they contacted us.
Yeah, so if the tree removal happened before, obviously the inspector came out, but I have tried calling her all day Monday and then emailed her, just to let her know what happened.
Okay,
That we've been in constant contact with her, going back and forth to make sure that we do the right thing and make sure we get all the processes in place.
okay. Were there any discussions when the vault was being contemplated about putting it somewhere else so that he wouldn't have to interfere with the tree?
I wasn't there on in the field when it happened, but from what I understand from my team member was that there were multiple discussions on where we could put it. And the place that we ended up putting it in, we understood that we cleared the requirements for the vault clearance, but we didn't realize that we didn't clear the requirements for the conduit. And so we were already in process of putting the vault in when we realized that there was a 5-foot clearance for the conduit. I think it's only like the 3-foot clearance for the vault itself.
Okay. So in this, just looking at this picture, so the property is not, it's
No, it's
actually
on the
occurring
other
across the
side.
street.
Yes, correct.
So is this property that the tree is actually on, had any testimony presented or concern about losing the tree that's in front of their property or on their property?
We personally did not have any contact with that building regarding this removal.
Okay, because I'm not sure if this is in the public right of way or on someone else's property that you're installing this vault. I don't know if, Brian, if you know where the
Yeah,
where the jurisdictional line is.
it is public right of way, so where the tree was is public right of way, so.
Okay, so the fence that's shown there is the border of the property, so if they got a buff permit or a BSM permit, they'd be in the right to put that vault up against that fence.
Yeah,
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not encroaching on someone else's property inadvertently with this. Okay. Is there, I guess, is there any other, you said that you had someone else to give testimony from the appellant side, Andy?
Yeah, Andy Giesner. I'm just here to support June with Dome Construction. Yeah, I just want to emphasize, a few things. This was, I mean, we were in permitting for this for over a year. So, we went through tons of different permits. There was the Maher issue with the dirt. I mean, the team really went through every hoop. And spent many times reviewing this with the PG&E inspectors to confirm like clearances, confirm there was no issues. The trees were all thought to be fine, all leading up to like day of, tractors are out there, people, we have the street blocked off, we have sidewalk blocked off, we have holes in the ground where pedestrians could have fallen, like up until that moment, like we had thought we had done everything, and we are very aware of any tree removal permits, and tree removing is definitely something that raises the flag for us as a contractor, right? Not just in San Francisco, but every jurisdiction we work in. Removing trees is something that has to be looked at carefully. So, and we had those conversations with PG&E, like, hey, is this going to impact these trees in the way? And it was like, nope, we're good. Don't worry about it. And it was like at this last moment when it all kind of came to a head. And I just want to also, the team they reached out as soon as they saw the issue. It was kind of late though, right? To the other gentleman's point, like, we didn't tell you ahead of time. We told you like, hey, we just dug this big hole in the ground and we have this issue now. So, unfortunately, due to the circumstances, that's what happened. And we recognize that. But I think the tree got pulled out on a Thursday or Friday. And like once we found out from the management side that the field had made that choice from a safety concern, first thing Monday morning, June was on the phone with the tree, the urban forestry, to report, like self-report, hey, this happened. This is the decision we made. We apologize. And, what can we do to help replace it, or pay to replace it somewhere else? Or what does that look like? So it was never something we tried to pass off or get over on anybody. It was clearly, hey, this is an unfortunate incident, and we want to do everything we can to make it right.
Got it. Can you elaborate just a little bit for me on the comment about, so you're doing the excavation, and up until the moment when you had to excavate further, you were under your plan was to leave the tree and work around it and still get the vault in. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the tree necessarily, at first, the thought was the tree technically wasn't in the way of the vault or the conduit. Like, it wasn't like the conduit has to go where the tree is. It was more of to get PG&E to sign off on the work. The tree couldn't be there. It was encroaching in the clearance, right? But once that worked, so it was like, okay, let's get it installed so we can at least get the work done. And then, because we were already doing that, and then we'll work with the urban forestry department to see if we can remove the tree and then get the sign off from PG&E so that we can energize the service. But in that activity of putting that conduit in, the tree got under excavated and the dirt started to fail. The soil root ball started to fail, and it was like, okay, this thing's got to come down. Plus, we also, like you see in the picture, we have the sidewalk cordoned off. This fault's going in the middle of the sidewalk. So not only do we have a tree potentially going to fall over, we have like a hole in the ground where pedestrians could go into. It was just, not the best scenario.
Okay, so in this photo, the vault is kind of in the foreground, where the vault was going, and then where you have that 90-degree bend in the conduit, kind of sitting up on a board there. That's the location. That's the tree. Are we looking at the tree that actually got removed in this picture, or is this a different tree?
I believe that's the tree that got moved. I'm familiar enough with it to
Yeah,
know
that's the
that.
tree that got removed.
Okay, so just to piece my mind on this, vault was going to go in and avoid the tree, and then at the moment of truth, when you're trying to get the conduits in, the excavation was undermining the root ball, and then it became a problem of salvaging the tree. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's when you had the Thursday contact with the Bureau, and they said no, and then instead of kind of pausing the project and leaving the excavation open, your team opted to take the tree out and deal with the consequences after.
Yeah, the field team decided, you know what, it's not a good situation. As you can see, the holes in the ground, it's in a public walkway, it's in a sidewalk. It was like, we just can't leave this thing here.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. And Sorry, you say research process? I just want to get in my notes correctly what the rationale for needing this service upgrade is.
The piece of equipment that was being installed, I don't know how much information the client wants to share about their specific process, but it's a piece of equipment that required 480 volts and the building had 200, it was a 208 or 220 volt building. And it's, will help companies and industry develop, new ways to process food and develop, new food types. With some of it having, environmental impacts like, alternative types of food. But yeah, so this piece of equipment, which they've been working on trying to get in place for a couple of years now, requires 480 volts at 3-phase, and we needed that service too. So that's why,
Gotcha.
this building was typically fed off of a power pole like you would a residential. So this is why we had to go to this side. This is why this is exactly where the vault had to be, because this is where the 480 volt line that PG has, it runs in the street. I mean, in this area, it runs under this sidewalk.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
problem.
Yeah, I don't need to understand the whole business purpose. I'm more concerned with why the vault was needed in the first place, and now it makes sense.
Yeah, the 480 volt line is under this sidewalk, and originally this building was a 208 or 220 volt single phase building, and we needed
Okay.
a 40 volt 3-phase service.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Is there anyone else to give testimony on this case?
I believe Mr. Wilson wanted to speak, but it says I need to promote to panelists because of his version of Zoom. Is that correct, June and Mr. Chu, sorry, Ms. Chu? And did you want Fred Wilson to speak as well? To promote to panelists, and I don't know if he's accepted it or not. It doesn't look like it. So go ahead, Miss Chu.
Oh, I was just saying that if he raised his hand to speak, then that's fine, if he wanted to add some more clarification.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Hello, hello?
Okay, yeah, can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, sorry. But if he had his hand raised and he would like to add some clarification, then that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to get him to promote to panelists because it says he's using an older version and he can't speak from where he's at. So I press promote to panelists, but he has to reply to come over. So I assume if he doesn't come over, you all can submit any written testimony to the hearing officer or submit it to us at Urban Forestry. Oh, let me see. I see something in the chat. Okay, he says it may be him. Okay, I'm not sure how it would look on your screen, Mr. Wilson, but I don't know how it should look to how it should appear to you. He says that if there is something, it must be hidden on his screen and he can't see how to promote to panelist.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
That's okay. So like I was saying, you can just submit to us an email, and
Okay.
I will put the email address in the chat,
Okay,
and he can just submit that and I'll forward it to the hearing officer. Thank you.
okay, perfect. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for all the detailed information. Is there anyone else on the call that's here to speak specifically to this issue? Hearing none, we will proceed to order number 210459 at 201 Vicente Street.
Brian, San Francisco Urban Forestry. Oh, yeah, sorry, actually you put it to everyone. So order number 210459 201 Vicente Street to consider an appeal for the illegal removal of one significant tree on private property at 201 Vicente Ave. The fine issued is $38,000. Next slide, please. So this is the subject tree. It's a bunya tree. It's a significant tree. The public right-of-way is 11 feet, and the tree is within 10 feet of the public right-of-way. And so Buff responded to a report of illegal removal, and when inspecting, arborists arrived. The work crew was not on site, but the tree was gone already. So here is, oh, sorry, next slide, please. So here is a view of the side of the tree. You could see, you know, I have no idea what's going on underneath, but it doesn't seem to be impacting the foundation or anything like that. It's like, I believe it's 7 feet away from the house. Next slide, please. And so here is the tree. On the left-hand side, you can kind of see, you know, the cross section of the tree, and doesn't seem to be any decay or anything like that. On the right-hand side, you see some superficial wounds on the outside, but doesn't seem to be impacting the tree that much or causing any imminent hazard for the tree to be removed so quickly. So there's no decay in the tree as shown by the stump. And basically there's a superficial wound that makes it improper removal recommendation. So basically, you know, if a qualified arborist would have performed a more thorough assessment and investigation, the permit regulations per ISA, Code of Ethics, this probably would have been prevented. You can, next slide, please. And this is just another cross-sectional view of the tree. You know, you can see that there's no decay or anything that would give evidence that the tree is a hazard and needs to be removed. And so to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have appraised the value of the tree at $38,000. And just one more thing, the tree is 53 inches in diameter. So that's why it's so high.
Thank you. Is there a appellant present?
Hi, yes, this is Heather Luongo. I'm the property owner. My husband, Phil Luongo, is also on, if you can unmute him as well. And I have slides to present.
Sure, how we can.
Okay, if you have
Right.
slides to present, I'm going to present you as panelists. There should be a message for you to accept, and you'll come over as panelists. Once you come over, you'll need to unmute yourself once again.
Okay,
And did you want to speak together or separately? You technically can have 3 minutes per person to speak.
then I guess we should probably go separately.
Okay. I'm going to promote you to panelist, so just accept the
Okay, got it.
okay. You'll need to unmute yourself again.
Okay, I'm unmuted and now I want to share my screen. You cannot start screen share
Okay.
while participant is sharing. Okay.
You can try it again.
Okay, I'm trying now.
There you are. Okay, it's showing now. Okay, so go ahead and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, I just want to say to start, we love this tree. There was nothing malicious nor negligent in our taking it down. Honestly, we've maintained it well over the past 13 years that we've owned this house. We've treated it every year. We've been taking care of mealybugs and scale. It was dangerously close to our house, and that is our children's bedroom right above, and our family room where we all sit nightly, and our dining room where we all sit nightly. So nothing malicious. We acted with urgency because the arborist and the structural engineer came with serious concerns. This is from your documentation. The removal criteria include dead, dying, not thriving. We would say this was definitely not thriving. The poor location, no longer sustainable for growth, and damage to property. You don't think you can see foundation damage, but this became an apparent issue when on January 12th, our garage door stopped closing. We had a garage door guy come out and he said, oh, your opening has narrowed in scope. So the door won't close. You can see this retaining wall is leaning. You can see a crack in the foundation. I don't know if you can see my mouse where it's moving, but this is a closer up of the crack in the foundation. Then you go inside the basement and you see cracks in the foundation and under the ground of the foundation, our home's bottom. The arborist reported that picture is a root ball moving. It was infested, as I mentioned. There was a bacterial canker. Honestly, when that tree came down, there was a foul smell for days, honestly, weeks. 1 to 2 gallons of potent liquid came out. So I disagree with the argument that a more professional arborist would have done something differently here. It was also, it had lifted, this is the sidewalk and this is our path to our house. The tree is right over in this area, had lifted this to, 6 inches above, which is a serious tripping hazard for anyone coming to our house. Our 90-year-old neighbor and plenty of trick-or-treaters came every year. On February 4th of this year, in the windstorms, one of the branches fell. And for context, this path is 6 feet wide. You can see that branch is probably 12 feet long, 50 plus pounds. We had to move it to the side, to get it out of the way. This would have killed one of us or seriously injured us or a neighbor or a car. And once one of those things happens, it's all on us. So we had to act quickly. I couldn't sleep from January 12th when we heard this was happening, and then subsequently got a structural engineer and the arborist. This crack, you had this same photo that I provided to you. This crack had increased dramatically over the years. This was 2021 when Susan Nawberry of Buff emailed me and said, have you had this checked out? And I did have it checked out. Again, we had an ongoing relationship with Bartlett. And they had checked it and said it looked okay at the time. Now it was up to this much. And again, this wasn't going to be the one reason for removal. We wouldn't have removed it if we weren't concerned with that, but we were concerned with the serious windstorms and rain, and trees were going down all over the city this winter. I saw huge trees when I was out on walks everywhere. We argue that the fine is punitive and excessive. The assessed value assumes it was a healthy tree, and assumes it was not located within inches from our house and on a busy city street. Bunya pines are not indigenous. The city is actively removing non-indigenous plants and trees everywhere. In October of 2015, a man sued for a falling cone on a bunya pine. So again, God forbid something happened and this tree hurt someone. That would have been all on us. And it was private property. We are not claiming ignorance. We worked with a certified engineer or arborist on this. And there were, on his bill, there were 3,000 of city permitting fees on there, which I did not specifically ask him what that's for, but we didn't, we moved quickly through him. And I think it's punitive. We paid $18,000 out of our own pocket to remove this tree. So, we've already paid a boatload on this. And honestly, this is a year of college tuition for one of our kids. I don't understand how this is, a fair assessment of the issue here. Finally, our block, we have a very nice high tree canopy score, and we still have plenty of green. This is our current house, picture of our house, plenty of green. We're happy to pay for a new tree. We're happy to put a new tree where we can, but it needs to be an appropriate tree. That tree's probably been here since the house was built, honestly, you know, long time ago, and was not suitable for a busy intersection that we live in today. Oh, my 3 minutes are up, I guess.
Thank you.
At
Yes.
the end of your presentation,
That is the end of my presentation.
this is a very, very informative slideshow and narrative. Is it possible that you can share that with the Bureau to have for my files?
Yes, I will forward it to the email that Sharice put in the chat.
Thank you. I do have some follow-up questions on that.
Sure.
So
Mr. Luongo had his hand up as well. Did you want to hear from him first or proceed with your questioning?
yeah, we can, well, let me ask some questions about this presentation first, because while it's still fresh in what you presented,
Sure.
a couple items that I'm curious about is, so you mentioned that you had spoken a few years back with the Bureau of Urban Forestry. So obviously you and the Bureau are aware of this tree and potential issues with those cracks.
Yes.
So as that concern obviously increased over the last 3 years, had you communicated again with the Bureau to request removal?
I had not, and honestly, I wasn't going to, because until that door didn't close in the middle of a windy winter, you know, windy and stormy winter, it wasn't an imminent danger, I thought. But, you know, I am telling you, the fear of God was put in me when the structural engineer and the arborist both came here and were like, yeah, you know, you might be able to get through this winter, but you're not getting through. That tree was luckily leaned away from our house, so I wasn't worried it was going to land on my house, but that root structure would have torn up my whole house. Again, my kid's bedroom and where we sit every day is right in those windows that you can see behind the, you know, behind the tree. So I was terrified when it got windy again, and then to see that branch come down on February 4th. Again, I mean, my kids walk on that path every day. I walk on that path every day. We have neighbors who walk to visit us every day. Kids in the neighborhood who go to school up the block. It was terrifying to think. So we just acted quickly, and again, worked with a professional certified arborist.
So, I mean, presumably from hearing the presentation, you understand that even if it's a important thing to get done, you still should be applying for a permit to go through the proper channels first.
Again, there were $3,000 of charges of permits on my invoice, on my bill or whatever estimate from Bartlett. I didn't ask specifically what they were for, but I knew we were paying the city a chunk of change for something. So I didn't go out of my way to reach out to, you know, I hired somebody who's a professional and thought that they.
Understood. I'm just trying to piece together what communications and what efforts were made. I'm trying to help you here because I understand that this is a large burden, the cost that's been levied, and I want to understand what efforts were made by your arborist. Obviously, in the presentation, the Bureau's position is that the arborist should have done more or known better. So I'm interested to know what the arborist did and what those $3,000 in permit fees and applications and so forth that were done that would help us understand that good faith efforts were made to do this properly rather than egregiously cutting and removing the tree without any concern for the process. So if there's any more information in your invoices or your scope of work with Bartlett or communications with them that could help support that attempts were made, that will definitely play a role in my review of this. Further, you mentioned the structural damage. Typically when there's structural damage from the tree, and I'll let Brian elaborate more on this, those are grounds for granting approvals. And so I'm wondering if your engineer has any report or an email or something that can substantiate the assessment that this is, you know, new damage or damage that's been precipitated by having the tree roots close by. Any kind of reports or documentation on that would be helpful.
Sure, I have photographs from when they removed, we've now spent a chunk of change to have our foundation rebuilt. So I have photographs from when they pulled down that plaster that you see in the side there with the root right there pushing up against. And the size of these roots that were coming in were not unsubstantial, you know, they were 12, 15, 20 feet or 20 inches in diameter, the roots that were pushing against the house there.
Okay.
And I certainly can
it's a
provide
massive
something
tree.
from the structural engineer as well.
Okay, yeah, if there's, is it possible that you can share more of that information with the Bureau so that I can help take all the information in when I make my review?
Yes.
Another question I have for you is, well, actually, this is directed at Brian, maybe to help paint the picture. Had the Bureau known about the structural damage that ostensibly was occurring due to this tree, as well as more information about the condition of the tree, would that affect a different disposition on whether or not they would grant a tree removal for this tree?
Yeah, Brian, Urban Forestry. We most likely would have approved the tree if we were presented all the information. You know, the arborist report from Bartlett and, you know, a structural engineer report confirming that, you know, the tree roots were affecting the foundation and they needed to repair the work, then yeah, most likely we would have approved the tree for removal.
Okay. And then the other question I wanted, this is in response to Heather's testimony, is how is the $38,000 fine arrived at?
Yeah, so basically, you know, we use the plant and tree appraisal format and formula. So we basically take the diameter and then we plug in a bunch of different aspects like the health of the tree, condition, external factors, and then we kind of have a formula that we plug in, and then there's some yeah, so basically, yeah, there's a formula that we take in all those things, and then it kind of like spits out, do some math, and it spits out a number for us.
So it's an objective
Yeah,
fine. It's not just some arbitrary number that's thrown at this tree.
no, yeah. So there's like we have like a spreadsheet, and we can plug in numbers and say what the health of the tree is, and yeah, so it is a little objective, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say the health of the tree, the fact that it's non-indigenous, the fact that it's, you know, putting risk to my house, the property damage would take that number down.
Okay.
But because of the diameter of the tree is so, that plays like probably like 50% into the calculation of the tree, because it is so big, and the biomass of the tree plays a really big part. So because it was a large tree, that's why it was the fine or the appraised value was so high. Even if we knock down, you know, health and all these other factors and put it at a low rating, it would still probably come out pretty high because of the diameter of the tree.
Okay. If we had a time machine and we went back to just before cutting the tree, and Ms. Longo had submitted an application with all the justification that the foundation structural damage and tree health and so forth, what would the cost be for removing this? Not the cost of the removal, but what would the cost for the permits and approvals for removing this be? Would it be a standard tree removal permit?
Yeah, it'd be a standard tree removal permit. So I believe that's the top of my head. It's about
58, I think it is. That's what it showed up on the website. when I-
yeah, $458 plus, the removal, I think the $3,000 that you said in permits for the city. I believe I'm not exactly sure how they removed it with a crane or whatnot, but yeah, it'd probably be $458, and that's about it for urban forestry.
And then would there be a in lieu fee or a requirement to plant additional trees in its place?
Normally we just would allow, if they went through the proper channels, just, replace one tree, yeah.
And is the appellant willing to plant a replacement tree?
Yes, we're actively trying to regenerate the area around, the poor lawn in front has been damaged from construction work going on in this area for now. So we're reseeding grass, and I'm happy to put in another tree that's appropriate to be right near a house.
And would you be willing to, because in cases like this, we often recommend a tree maintenance class or like a consultation with the Bureau in terms of finding a tree that's appropriate and suitable in its place.
Sure. Yes, happy to do that.
Okay, I think that's the end of my questions for the moment. But if your husband wants to give testimony as well, I'm happy to give him his 3 minutes.
Okay, let's
Hi
see.
there. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Phil Luongo. I won't take 3 minutes. I think you covered it very well, and thank you for the consideration. I just want to again emphasize that I think you could hear in my wife's voice and in our feeling of we acted with urgency because we thought it was an emergency situation. And one more piece of evidence or comment that we can get from I believe the structural engineer, and you asked for it, is as we were reviewing the foundation, he said, something to the effect that, like, if we were to have an earthquake right now, this could be a major problem. And I was horrified thinking that, like, how do we go to sleep on that on top of that? So, that was just another piece of information in addition to what my wife shared that I wanted to make sure you understand. And to the extent that we can share any communication with Bartlett and with the construction company and the structural engineer that can help inform your decision, we'll do so immediately. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, send what you can to us. It will help. Also, I don't know if you already mentioned this, but can you explain a little bit the context of your prior meetings with the Bureau, with Susan Nawberry? You said that was a few years ago. Was that to assess the tree, or was it related to something else? I'm just trying to understand the history of that.
I'll speak to that because she and I have been in email communication. There was a street tree on the other side of our house. We're kind of on a point where our house is, Vicente and Yoloa intersect here. So on the other side, on the Yoloa side, Wawona side of our house, there was a street tree that she and I worked together to get removed that was damaged, and, it was a street tree, so there was no question, and we, she did the permitting for that, the city removed it. So we had been in email contact about that many years ago, and then I think, just because she had me on her email, honestly, when she did email me the day that the tree was being taken down, because I think a neighbor or someone walked by and saw it, and I was shocked to see her email, just because I'm like, oh my God, are there eyes everywhere? But she asked what was happening with the tree, and I gave her the story that we are taking it down because it's breaking our foundation, et cetera. So, you know, on that day, and she asked if it was a professional arborist, and I shared that with her, and, you know, at that point, she said, did you get a permit? And I, you know, that's when we started this whole conversation.
It's a little distressing to hear that your arborist was doing this without reaching out for a permit through Buff. Sometimes it's a mea culpa when a property owner does it on their own, because they're not necessarily as well versed in the ordinance, but an arborist that works in San Francisco basically should have no excuse for not contacting the Bureau and asking for a permit, even if they have to take it out with the consequence of a fine. They should ask first. So.
Well, and I guess, you know, one thing that just came up for me is, so were you saying that if the city had removed this, we wouldn't have paid the 18,000 that we paid for it? The city would have paid for it?
Well, in this case is a little bit different because it's a private property tree, but the Bureau has jurisdiction because it's a significant tree. So
Okay.
there's different categories of trees, and Brian, you may be able to explain it better than me, but my understanding is when it's a street tree, then the city's responsible and they would pay for all the maintenance. Whereas when it's on your property, it's your responsibility to maintain it, but it's also restricted if it's considered a significant or a stately tree, because the enjoyment seen from the street means that it's a little bit of a gray area. I don't know, Brian, if you can elaborate on that more.
Yeah, you know, I don't know the reason behind the significant tree, like how it was created, but you know, yeah, if it's within 10 feet of the public right of way and a certain size, so if it's like measuring 20 feet in height or 15 feet in width, or has a truck diameter of at least 12 inches, if it meets one of those requirements, then it is considered a significant tree and needs a permit. And everything that Thomas said beforehand about, you know, if it's in the public right of way, then the city would take care of those street trees. But if it's a significant tree, then the homeowner would be responsible for removing it, but they would need to obtain a permit to remove it.
Okay.
And your arborist, unless it's his very first time working in San Francisco, should be well aware of that.
Well,
that
I mean,
reach.
Bartlett they're big in San Francisco. I'm sure you've heard of them. I'm sure you've worked with them. Like, they're not a fly-by-night operation. So that's why I didn't question, you know, what we were doing. You know, they're well regarded in San Francisco. So
they should have known to have gotten a permit. If you could send the invoice as well, just so we know what those $3,000, what they charged you.
Yeah.
Because they should have known that they need a permit to remove the tree, a significant tree. We work with them all the time, and they should know better.
Well, yeah, agree. And I guess, you know, I don't know where they land in all of this. If, you know, like, I'm a homeowner.
The thing is, I don't know, is my mic still open?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is we've had a longstanding relationship with them as we cared for the tree over the years. You know, I think it's just maybe perhaps something we, you know, understanding we needed to get the license, and but we kind of had our trust in them, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but like we had a longstanding relationship with them, caring for the tree, trimming it properly away from the house, making sure we didn't have dangerous branches. So we definitely had a measure of trust in them. So just want to call that out here. But as far as any information we can share, I heard you on the fee, you know, the 3,000. We can send you a copy of that as well as the other things we discussed.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, in some cases, the fine unfortunately goes to the homeowner, even if it's a contractor that should be responsible, and then the onus is on the homeowner to chase down the contractor, the offending party, basically, that should have followed the rules. This happens quite frequently, and we recognize, though, that that's a more difficult pursuit than it sounds like. So,
Right.
you know, we'll take all this into account, but if there's some fine levied, you may have to work with Bartlett and say, you guys should have known better. And, you know, what can they do to help soften that blow for you? Unless they have some compelling reason why they didn't need to contact the city for this case. If they say, because of X, Y, and Z, we're exempt and we feel that we didn't need to contact them, then that kind of testimony will be useful. So what I'm going to suggest, given the high cost of this item, is that if I can give you a few days, say till the end of the week, to send us the structural engineer's testimony or you know, his report, as well as the invoice from Bartlett, and maybe ask them for a little email or write-up as to why they didn't follow the regulations.
Okay.
That would be helpful to understand their reasoning. I don't want to continue this into the next hearing, but I do want to give you the opportunity to talk to them and say, hey, we got dinged 38,000, and supposedly you should have contacted the city. Why didn't you? Please provide an explanation, and I'll take that explanation in my files when I review this.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
I don't think there's anything else I have. Is there anyone else on the call that's here to speak about this or any of the cases we heard earlier?
There are no other hands.
Okay, thank you. Well, appreciate everyone's time, and based on hearing no other comments, we'll close this item and we'll consider the hearing now closed.